morning, all of you. When my good friend for decades, Aravind, asked me, I cannot say no to him. In fact, I've been conducting these webinars virtually once or twice every day now. And that shows the gravity of the situation, and that shows the level of panic that is amidst the people of India now. So I think it's our collective responsibility to, number one, allay the fear that has gripped all of us, and particularly the middle class and the rich. There is a reason why I say that, because the poor are have no choice and they are not much affected by this either. Uh, and it's very evident that governments across the political spectrum, from center to states, have either not seen this coming, or they have failed in their responsibility, or were not able to, or have not been able to foresee and make arrangements in this 1 year. So it has now fallen upon all of ourselves to tackle this second wave, what we call as. So I'll be very brief, and I will try to give my perspective on the whole issue. And as Aravind knows very well, and as we have written in that book which we published and released on 15th of August, long ago, we said don't fear the corona, and we stand by it. And even today, I'm going to tell you that we should not fear this virus. This is not a virus that deserves so much of fear or panic and this kind of a lockdown and all those things. You'll be surprised when I say that, but that's a fact. I'll explain in a little while. Professor Varghese said we have to be used to this new normal, but I have to disagree with that notion. In fact, the New Year greetings that I send always, and this year's greeting, I put it as we should be back to the old normal in 2021, and that will happen. That should happen. This kind of Zoom meets and webinars and work from homes and wearing masks 24/7 wherever we go, and the policeman wielding lathis and making us sit inside. All this should not have happened, or at least it should end at the earliest. Because every animal, every bird, every human being love their liberty the most. So whatever can be taken away from us, but not our freedom. If we don't have the freedom to move about, if we don't have the freedom to work, if we don't have the freedom to buy what we want, we don't have the freedom to live as we want. Uh, when I say as we want, of course, under the constitution and under the laws. But we are using an archaic law of 1897, 1898, which was brought in to control plague, and we are using that particular law and wielding the stick of that law to uh, threaten and scare everybody. That's a little unfortunate. So we have to be back to normal, and we will be back to normal very soon, 3 to 4 months from now. That's my that feeling, and that's going to happen. Now, this coronavirus, very often it is said that nothing much is known. It is a mystery disease. It causes this, it causes that. It is causing so many deaths. And now there is a report that I keep getting these WhatsApp messages that the new black fungus is killing. Some postmortem is done here, there, so on and so forth. So all our WhatsApp timeline, Facebook timelines, all our newspaper front to back are covered with COVID. Now, much of this is not true. In fact, I've been practicing medicine after my MD in 1992. So, in my experience of nearly 30 years, this is the first time that a new virus was detected in flat 15 days time. The first patient with COVID was admitted on December 12th, and the Chinese doctors and medical scientists isolated the virus, sequenced its genome, and sequenced all its proteins, how it enters the body, how it attaches the human cells, and all these details were deciphered in 15 days. Exactly on December 27th, this was made known to the world, and January 4th, it was handed over to the WHO. WHO made the formal announcement on January 7th of 2020. So and then the probes for testing this and identifying this, the PCR probes and everything became available very soon thereafter. And by mid-February 2020, the Chinese doctors had analyzed the data of about 72,000 patients who were admitted in Chinese hospital, and they published it by the end of February. By next 1 or 2 days, we all doctors and professionals on this planet had the opportunity to read them because of the greatest speed and access that we have to technology today. So we never had these advantages any time in the past. So we are at the best of science, the best of technology. But the way we have used this information, if I can use the word without hurting sentiment, has been plain stupid. Now, I'm not just saying with regard to India, this is with regard to the world. We could have definitely managed it much, much better. We didn't have to go through all these pains and lockdowns and all these things. In fact, in many parts of the world, like Sweden and Switzerland and Korea and Japan and Taiwan and Vietnam and Cuba, in many, many, many places of the world, even in UK and USA, nationwide lockdowns or general lockdowns or curfew kind of a lockdown were never ever imposed. Never imposed. And all of them try to manage it to the best of their ability. We could have done that. Anyway, I'm not passing any comments or complaints. Don't consider it that. Now, this virus is not exactly a new virus. There are 6 other coronaviruses. This is the 7th one. And of the 7, 3 are known to cause more serious illness because they affect the lung. One was first identified in 2003, that is now termed SARS-CoV-1. Earlier it was called SARS virus. Next, another one called Middle East Respiratory Syndrome virus of the same coronavirus group was identified in Saudi Arabia in 2012-13. So it seems that every 8 years, every 10 years, one new coronavirus is emerging from the wild and infecting some human being somewhere, and from then it spreads elsewhere. And this is the third such virus, and we have named it SARS-CoV-2. Jumped from some bat to some human being who was inside the cave in was going into the cave in China in search of animal food, so wild animals as food. So he probably got infected from the secretions of the bat, and then he gave it to his relatives and others, and that's how it spread in China. And from China, now world being a very small place, it has spread all over the world. So this virus is more infective than the original SARS-CoV-1, but much, much less deadly than SARS-CoV-1. In SARS-CoV-1, the mortality was at as high as 20 to 30%. And MERS, that is Middle East Respiratory Syndrome virus, it is about 30 to 40%. Whereas in this new coronavirus, the mortality is 0.05 to 0.07%. That means it infects lots of people, crores of people, but it kills 7 or 5 per 10,000. I'm talking of the infection fatality rate. Now the data that you are seeing shows about 1% or 0.5%. That is a case fatality rate, meaning that is the number of deaths out of the cases identified with the RT-PCR test or antigen test or whatever. Infection fatality rate is considering all the infected people, tested and untested. So the untested are in India expected to be at least 30 to 50 times more than the number that we are seeing in the newspapers today. So that is, if there are 3 lakh cases are detected every day, the actual number may be 30 to 40 times more than that. That is about 1 to 1.2 crores. So by now, India would have already reached total infection of about 90 to 100 crore people. Deaths will be again 5 to 6 times of what is reported. Now it's about 4,000 deaths per day being reported. It may be 5 times or 6 times more than that, so about 20,000 or 25,000. So if you calculate using this estimate, then you will come to the same figure of 0.05 to 0.07%. In fact, that is what the Karnataka Health Minister had stated in October last year. I had predicted the mortality of 0.007% about a week earlier to that. I had published an article in Varta Bharati, a Kannada daily. And a week later, the health minister also said it is 0.07% in Karnataka. This was for last year. And to tell you, a lot of things are being written that this is a new mutant that is causing the infection. It is more deadly, more dangerous, so on and so forth. None of these are true. These are so you need to understand it. So the new strains are not a big problem. You'll be surprised when I say this. And as far as managing the cases are concerned, or managing the epidemic is concerned, we don't have to really bother about this new mutant. So it is behaving the same way. As I said, the first report that was published from China in February 2020 has held good all across the world. Everywhere the virus has behaved the same way. In India, it has behaved the same way. And the new second wave, or what is now being said, attributed to the new mutant, it is also behaving the same way. So therefore, the first point I am trying to make here is that this is a well-known virus by now. We know extremely well how this virus causes problems, in whom it causes problems, and why it causes problems. And we also know that this virus has behaved the same way all across the planet without any difference between the countries and populations, and without any difference during the first wave and the second wave over this past one. This is the first point all of you should understand. And let me point out right here that whatever I am telling you is not from my pocket. It is all based on all the data that we have been reading and studying for the past 1 year. So therefore, you can take every bit of what I'm saying with a lot of confidence, and it is a trustworthy information, because it's very important I make this statement, because whatever I am speaking is probably not on par with what you are reading or what other doctors and experts and the government is saying. So therefore, I must make it very clear, so you can rely on whatever I am saying. Now, when I say that we know very well how this virus is causing the problem, lot of studies have gone on and lot of efforts have been put into understanding this the behavior of this virus. Now here, let me point out that me and my wife, who both are interested in metabolic medicine, and I am interested in infectious diseases also. And as the resume was read that I worked on malaria, I have also worked on other infections. So for us, being interested in metabolic diseases, when we say metabolic diseases, it is how the food is made use of by the body, and how the food that we eat triggers lot of events in the body, and how our body responds to the food, and how the food causes health or disease in the body. That is basically metabolism. So we are interested in metabolic medicine, and also I am interested in infectious diseases. So this is one infection which has combined the new virus with the new food that we have been eating over the past 40, 50 years mostly, and with the new lifestyle that we have been following over the past 2, 3 decades. And unfortunately, this new food and the new lifestyle has been forced upon us in the name of these lockdowns, and that is what is making this disease worse. So this is something all of us should understand. We all have clamored for lockdowns. In fact, lockdowns are doing more harm than good by forcing people to indulge in new food and new lifestyle. I'll explain this a little later. So what this virus does, of course, it's a new virus, but the virus by itself doesn't cause much harm. See, I told you that the mortality, the infection mortality is only 0.07%. We have much more serious diseases. I hear many of you are from Kerala. You had a Nipah 2 years ago, and you managed it extremely well. And Nipah, the mortality is 50 to 60%, or even more. And we have rabies, what we get by bite of a rabid dog, mortality is 100%. Whereas when it comes to COVID, it is 0.07%. And this 0.07% also occurs in people who already have a sick body. I'm sorry for having used the word sick, but it conveys the idea very easily. That's why I'm using that term. So when I say sick, these are the people who had comorbidities. The complications in COVID, this was very well known, as I said, in February last year itself. and it has been identified all across the globe where corona has spread, including in India. So our data also very clearly shows that mortality and complications in COVID are almost universally seen only in people with comorbidity. It is extremely uncommon for someone who is really healthy to get any complication from COVID. So these premorbidities or comorbidities are diabetes, age beyond 60, 65 years, high blood pressure, heart disease, and obesity, and of course, chronic liver disease, chronic kidney failure. These are the more common or most common premorbidities on whom the coronavirus infection creates havoc. Now, there is a recent paper published in the prestigious journal Lancet last week, or the beginning of this week, which ended, which said that a body mass index of 23 also is a risk factor for worsening of corona in younger age group. We often, very often hear about friends or relatives, and in newspaper also, young person who was very healthy has succumbed to corona. So these doctors claiming that it is only the people with comorbidities they are dying, others are all healthy. The healthy people are also dying is not true. So everyone need to be worried. That is not true. See, then we should know the definition of what is health. See, just because somebody is appearing healthy from outside doesn't necessarily mean that he's healthy inside. This is very important. So when I say somebody who is healthy will be safe from this, he should not have any obesity. He should have the lean body weight with BMI less than between 20 and 23. I'm not saying that anybody with a BMI with 23 need to get worried. I will tell you at the end as we go on why that is not so. But it's only a risk factor, not that everybody with the BMI more than 23 are going to die or going to land up in ICU. No, it's not like that. So somebody who is very healthy with a normal BMI, who doesn't even have a small pot belly, has a very lean body mass. Very often we say he was a marathoner, he was going for exercise every day, yet he succumbed to COVID. Running a marathon or going for a walk every day, but having other unhealthy lifestyles doesn't protect you from COVID. So healthy meaning somebody who has a lean body weight, somebody who has a very healthy food, which I'll explain a little later, and somebody who is having a very healthy, active lifestyle with regular exercises being practiced. That is what I call as healthy. That is the definition of health. And of course, someone who is mentally healthy and not experiencing stress in day-to-day life. So, COVID, the new corona virus, the new virus, joined with the new lifestyle of lack of exercise, lack of sleep, and full of stress, and the new food of high sugar consumption, high amount of fruit and fruit juice consumption, high amount of maida and corn flour and processed food consumption. The combination of these three is what is causing the deadliness or the fatalities that we are seeing in COVID today. So how to break this? How to protect ourselves from COVID? If you want to protect yourself from COVID, you have to break these three things getting together. So you have to stay away from the virus as far as possible. You have to avoid the new food. You have to go back to the old traditional food. And you have to break this bad lifestyle of sitting at home, working from home, no exercise, no walking. If we can break these three, then we can be very sure that we will not have any problems with coronavirus. It will just come and go. This is the most important message that I have to convey. I'm conveying to you today. And please practice it. Please spread this message to everybody. I'm sorry to say that this particular aspect has been ignored and neglected by everybody all over the planet. I have my relatives in the US, and we both, me and my wife, keep telling them, look here, this disease is completely related to metabolic syndrome. Take care of your metabolism. Be safe. Nothing else can prevent you from getting affected from severe COVID. Do this. Then the answer they give is, it's not practical. America lives on bread, America lives on biscuits, America lives on donuts. Such a similar situation is in European countries where we have seen high mortality, and similar situation is existing today in urban India where we are seeing more mortality. That is what is being practiced in higher income group people in India. In that population itself, we are seeing higher rate of application of corona. So therefore, we have to break these three things. Only then we can save ourselves from COVID. Coronavirus is not easy to stay away from it. I said we stay away, but not easy. I had made a statement in March last year that this virus has now entered India. It is going to be here for centuries and it is going to infect everyone and we cannot run away from it. And I stand by that statement even now. And that's what we are seeing today. These lockdowns are not going to help much because what we are doing is a shutdown, not a lockdown. And what lockdown was done by the Chinese, and that cannot be done by anybody, any country. They locked up everybody inside the households, but they took care of everybody's needs for 53 days. They gave them food, they gave them water, they gave them medicines, they did the health checkups. They did everything for 2 months. And that's how they broke the chain. But what we are doing is we are shutting down shops, we keeping it open for 1 hour, and in that 1 hour, everybody is rushing there to buy things, and there is overcrowding. So we are doing it the other way. So anyway, I won't go into that. So some or the other, we will, and even the masks, you can wear the mask, but don't be under the impression that the mask is going to protect you 100% against the virus. No, it will still sneak through. Healthcare workers who are wearing PPEs and all the equipment or whatever protective gear, they are also getting infected. They have got infected. Many of them have got serious disease also. So we all be prepared to get this virus now or later. That is number one. I'm not saying you should go and get infected, but it will happen. So we should be prepared physically and mentally to face this virus. Vaccines are not known to, no vaccine manufacturer has assured us that it will prevent the infection. What they are saying is that it may to some extent reduce the severity of the disease. So therefore, vaccine also is not a guarantee that we can stay away from this virus. So the virus will be there. We have to be prepared to face it. So we can't do much about it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But the other two factors which are worsening the disease are completely under our control. Food is under our control. We can choose what to eat, what not to eat. Exercise and lifestyle and sleep are under our control. We can choose to sleep as much as needed. We can choose to exercise as much as needed. So if we take care of these two of the three components of this problem, then we need not fear corona. That is why we titled the book, which we published last August itself, as Corona Hedaradirona in Kannada. That means don't be afraid of corona. So please take care of your food and your lifestyle, and your I can assure you, you will be safe from this disease. Now I'll explain now how and why this happened. So I have to explain. I quickly. Now coronavirus, once it enters the body, it enters through talking to each other. Remember this. Now we keep saying lockdown and lockdown and lockdown and police lathi charge and all those things will prevent corona. No, corona spreads. Most of it happens inside the household. There is a large study done in Andhra and Tamil Nadu by Ramanan Lakshminarayanan and team and published in a journal called Science, which is one of #1 journal in the world. Science and Nature both are the topmost journals. So that will show you how important or how good the study is. And they have very clearly shown that for healthcare workers, the risk of getting infection is 1.4% because they are, as I said, using the protective gear. So even if they are working with the patients, they don't get the infection that easily. Risk of getting infection from an exterior, you go to a shop or a medical shop or wherever you roam around, is 2.4%. But the risk of getting infection inside the house is 9.6%. That means the spread is 4 times more common within the household than the outside. For example, somebody goes to buy a vegetable. I said now by locking down, we are creating crowd and havoc in all the shops and markets. So somebody there, he has to come to buy. So by this crowding there, he gets the infection, he comes home. And without even knowing the symptoms or without even developing the symptoms, 12 hours prior to the onset of symptoms, this virus may spread to the others of his family member. How? By talking to each other. And we don't wear the mask inside. We don't follow the social physical distancing inside the houses. All right. And it's not practically possible also. So that's why again I'm saying it is very nearly impossible to stop getting this virus entering our body. Whatever it is, the infection happens from person to person. Most of it happens inside the households and not outside. Outside it can happen. I'm not denying, but most of it, the spread happens inside the household. So what we have to do, remember that it spreads from person to person talking to each other. This is the most important way it spreads. So when you talk, the virus, if you are infected from your throat and your nose, when you talk, the air comes out full of viruses. And the person in front of you is also keeping his mouth open when he is talking to you, and nose is anyway open. So the air with these viral particles enters his nose and throat, and it attaches to the cells of the throat and the nose. That is the first thing to happen. So when the virus enters the cells, it is inside the cell. Therefore, any amount of gargling, any amount of steaming, or any amount of kashaya or limbu pani or whatever is not going to remove the virus from inside the cell. It is already inside the cell. So therefore, don't indulge in any of those. They are of no use at all. But have faith in your own immune system. You have fantastic, all of us have fantastic immune system. Don't believe all this nonsense that immunity is weak. So we are giving you immune boosters. Complete nonsense. Nobody's immunity is weak unless somebody has immune deficiency disorders. Nobody's immunity is weak. All our immunity is good. But I'm come to that. It is dysregulated in few people. I'll explain a little later. So all of us have good immunity. So the immune system, the cells of the immune system will detect the viral particles. It will detect the cells infected with the viral particles. We have systems that in the body. So these cells will be attacked by our immune cells. It is like some terrorists or some criminals hiding in a place, and the police somehow come to know of it, and they go and surround the house. And if the criminals don't come out, then the house itself is blasted. The same thing happens in the body when a virus enters the cell. The cell itself is killed by the other cells, the policemen of the immune system. So the cells are killed by what we call as the natural killer cells, part of our immune system. And then these immune cells also generate a lot of chemicals which destroy cells and which prevent the virus from binding to others. So one such are called antibodies. That takes about 3 to 4 days to develop. So once the antibodies develop, the infection completely comes under control, because then the virus cannot attach to any more cells. So the infection comes under control. So all this process from the time of the virus's entry into the nose and throat to stopping the infective process, healing the infection, takes about 4 to 6 days in everyone. So this immune response is common to 100. All of us will have this kind of immune system, no, immune response. Nobody need to worry. So in fact, if this immune systems respond, the fighting between the virus and the immune system is what, and the chemicals that are released. These are the ones which cause fever. These are the ones which cause headache. And these are the ones which cause loss of taste. Now, loss of smell is due to direct entry of the virus through the nasal cells in the nose, and swelling of the nasal cells of the nose, and that's why you lose the smell. So that improves over a period of 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So you need not worry about whatever it is. In 6 to 7 days, almost everybody will clear the infection from nose and the throat. In some people, I said once the immune system takes control of the viruses, the immune response will start coming down. That is a normal thing to happen. So immune system is like a car. You have a car, you switch on the ignition key, press the accelerator, go to your destination, and as you reach the destination, you start releasing the accelerator and press the brake and stop the car. If you press the accelerator too much, you are going to hit and cause accidents, or if you fail to apply the brake on time, again you are going to crash the car. Very much the same happens in the immune response against COVID in people who are developing serious complications. So their immune system accelerates the response too much than what is required, and it fails to release the accelerator when the virus is already over. It's controlled, but it continues to speed up the immune response, and it fails to apply the brake when needed. So this is called as hyper immune response. So people saying this Ayurveda fellows and Unani fellows and oh, everybody is an expert now. Every MP, MLA and Tom, Dick and Harry are experts on COVID except real experts. So it is not weak immune system that is creating problem, but a very strong immune response that is creating problem in corona. So the immune system should not be excessively strong. Anybody excessively powerful will always create problem. That is what is happening in COVID also. So therefore, this is termed in immunological parlance as immune dysregulation. So the normal regulation fails. And why does this immune dysregulation happen? Directly related to metabolic syndrome and stress and lack of exercise. People with diabetes, people with obesity, and with related disorders like heart disease and liver disease and renal disease, all of them have what we generally club together as metabolic syndrome. So people with the metabolic syndrome have underlying immune dysregulation and pre-existing high levels of inflammation. So it is this pre-existing high level of inflammation is what is causing heart attack, is what is causing stroke, is what is causing obesity in the normal population without COVID. They all have high inflammation in their body. If you check their CRP, in fact, Arvind has in his laboratory a test called highly sensitive CRP, which is one of the risk factors for heart attack. People with HSCRP on the higher side are known to develop heart attack more often than the others. So the cholesterol you are talking about is also a marker of hyperinflammatory response. So this we always knew. So as I said, on people who already have high inflammatory state, this virus is entering them. That also generates inflammation, and this pre-existing inflammation together causes hyperinflammation, brake failure, or overspeeding, and damage to lungs, blood vessels, and other organs that we see in corona. So it is a collateral damage due to overspeeding and reckless driving and not applying the brakes on time. So immune regulation also has a lot to do with your sleep. It has a lot to do with your exercise. If any of you have read Mahatma Gandhi's Experiments with the Truth, so often he writes there that what kept me going all along, walking to Dandi and everywhere, was my habit of walking and walking and walking. He was in the UK as a student. One fine day, he realized that I'm living here with my brother's money, so I should not use the tram or the buses and all that. So I should walk. So, and then Gandhi started walking everywhere, and he kept walking throughout his life. He walked everywhere, and that in fact kept him very healthy and lean. What you see his photos. So therefore, what I'm trying to impress upon you is exercise, walking is extremely important in keeping our immune system very agile, very alert, and well balanced. So therefore, friends, to face COVID, number one, keep this physical distance as much as possible. Stay away 6 feet. And if you are infected, if you have symptoms, it is entirely your responsibility to prevent COVID from spreading to others. Remember that. Because only you know that you have come in contact with a person of COVID. So you may develop symptoms in 2 to 3 days. So you should be very alert. Only you know that you have the symptoms of COVID. And what are the symptoms of COVID? That should alert you and that should force you to stay separate from others. Universally, everybody will have a headache. Most of them, about 80-85% will have fever. 15% may not have fever. Remember that. And many of them will have a sore throat and itching of the nose. And most of them will have a very minimal dry cough. After 2 days or 3 days, many of them will notice complete loss of smell. How do you identify? You can smell a soap or a coffee powder. then not very strong odors. You should always try with the mild odors like soap or coffee powder. Then you know that you have lost your smell. If these symptoms are there, you can be very sure that you are going through COVID. So if you have symptoms of COVID, stay away from your family members. Talk to them at 6 feet distance. And preferably, you can wear a mask or a face cover also to minimize the spread. But the most important is distance. Even if you have a face mask and then go very near, close to somebody and speak, you will still spread the disease. So the basic requirement is distance, not mask. So please follow distancing whenever you have symptoms. That's very important. So stay away from everybody and stay at home. Don't go out. I am repeating this very clearly. Don't go out to get RT-PCR test done. Don't go out to seek treatment because governments may say anything. Finally, now government is also coming around to say, I've been saying this since last March. I was laughed at, mocked at. Aravind knows about it. Now the government is also saying stay at home. Meaning you don't have to come for the test, you don't have to come for treatment. So there is no need to do RT-PCR. What are we going to do with RT-PCR? If you have the symptoms, it is COVID. Finished. You consider it as COVID. So stay at home. If you go out for a test, if you go out to a doctor, you are going to spread it to everybody waiting for other tests. For example, a diabetic will be there, or an old man will be there, or an old woman will be there for their day-to-day issues. And you go and sit with them, chit chat with them, you are going to spread your COVID to them. So therefore, be at home, stay away from your family members. And if you have people who are aged, if you have people with diabetes, obesity, so on and so forth in your family, definitely stay away from them for at least 7 to 8 days. That is the duration for COVID to spread to others. After that, as I said, as the first phase of the infection, where the immune system is working normally, clearing the virus happens. After that, the chance of spread is very, very less. So this is what everybody need to do. Take care not to spread it to others. Now, when you are staying at home, you have to monitor for the complications. As I said, the complications happen in people who are overweight, people who are, and this can happen at any age. Even children who are overweight will have, they may not end up in ICU, but they will have higher fever, higher body ache, and more of cough compared to a child which is very lean and having minimal healthy food. So overweight at any age is a risk factor for more severe immune response. So therefore, people who are overweight, people who have diabetes, people who have blood pressure, heart disease, and so on and so forth, they should be specially monitoring themselves when they are isolating inside the house. Now, complications of COVID occur in the second week. Remember that. First week, I said in everybody the virus is cleared. The problems come due to this hyper response, which happens during the second week. So the oxygen levels going down, so on and so forth, all happen 6-7 days later. Now there are two issues to this. Number one, just because your fever has gone down and you are feeling a little better, even if you have risk factors, but these things have improved to some extent. Don't jump up and down and start neglecting your health. No. If you have risk factors, monitor your blood oxygen for at least 2 weeks. Extremely important. Buy a pulse oximeter, good one. Keep it on the middle finger, right or left. Check your oxygen level. The larger fonted reading is SpO2, that is the partial pressure of oxygen in the blood. Normal is 97 to 100. If it is less than 95, that is the time you need to get alarmed and call your doctor or contact the hospital. If it is above 97, above 95, you don't have to worry at all. But the moment it comes below 95, you need to get alarmed and take the next steps. And so you have to monitor for 2 weeks. And most of the people who land up in hospital they land up in 6 days, 7 days or 8 days. And ICU admissions happen on 11th day or 12th day. So therefore, those who are at risk of developing complications need to monitor themselves for at least 2 weeks. That's very important. Very often we read reports that he was in the hospital, then he was discharged, he came back home and succumbed. Now, this happens because we are missing hypoxia. We are neglecting our symptoms, we are neglecting hypoxia. So that should not happen. You should be very, very careful, monitor it for 2 weeks. Second thing is control your diet. As I said, the first week it is the immune system which takes care and no medicine is available. Let me point it out here itself. There is absolutely no drug which can kill the coronavirus. We don't need it, that I told you. We don't need it. Body will take care of it. Let us have fullest faith in our immune system like we have faith in our armed forces. We are here confidently that they are taking care of our country. Similarly, let us be confident about our immune system. We keep it healthy, then we remain confident. We give everything to our armed forces. We remain confident. Take care of our immune system by the food and the lifestyle. As I said, I'm going to tell you now. We can remain confident. Don't have to run around for medicines. And most of the medicines that are prescribed by the government agencies and private agencies are all wrong. Doxycycline, azithromycin, chloroquine, favipiravir, even remdesivir, not necessary at all. So any of you or your relatives are no panicking and trying to get and run around and spend money on these drugs, please convince them that they do not work. So they are not needed. WHO has also very categorically stated that it is recommending against the use of remdesivir. So none of these work. So when the second week happens, when the complications arise, that is when we need to be careful. Okay, now one more point, I have to mention this. Many doctors and in Karnataka, unfortunately, even some of the government agencies are recommending steroids for patients with corona. Never ever do that. Please tell all your relatives, all your friends, spread this message through your contacts that steroids should never ever be used by a patient with corona. It causes so much of havoc. It increases the blood glucose, which in turn worsens the disease. Steroids hamper the immune response. They reduce the immune response. It is like when the police try and come and quell the riot, you are stopping the police by tear gassing the police force itself. So that should not happen. Let the immune system take care of the virus in the initial week. So in the first week of the illness, when somebody is sitting at home, nobody should take steroids in the form of tablets. So if anybody is recommending steroid like dexamethasone, prednisolone, please tell them don't recommend. Please tell medical shops not to dispense it. And even if you have got such a prescription, don't take it. It will cause more harm. So no steroids at home. So in the second week, if the oxygen level dips, they must immediately contact the hospital. And in the hospital, they will be assessed by simple tests like CRP and LDH. Today, a lot of news is about CT scans. For all your information, CT scans are not necessary at all for assessing. In fact, that should not be done for assessing the severity of COVID. It doesn't yield anything other than what we see on a pulse oximeter and a CRP and LDH. CT scan doesn't add anything. If at all, one chest X-ray can be done. CT scan overreads the problem of COVID and ultimately leads to higher use of steroids and higher use of drugs, which can all cause more problems than good. So therefore, steroids are not necessary. Monitor the oxygen, monitor the overall health of the individual. If there is continuous decline in oxygen, say 89, 88, then they may have to be given supplementary oxygen. And if they deteriorate further, they may have to be put on NIV or invasive ventilation. Now, these are the patients who land up in a hospital with decreasing oxygen. They will be given injectable steroids under medical supervision, and they will be given blood coagulation stopping drugs like heparin, what we call as anticoagulants. So these are the only two drugs that will be useful in this patient. So therefore, that will be taken care of by doctors. So never ever take steroids and aspirin and all those things at home. If you're already on aspirin, continue, but don't take it. And no antibiotics, as I said, and no medicine. Stay home, follow the food that I'm going to tell you now. So the most important intervention, which all of you should start from today, please spread this message to tell all your friends and relatives, is changing your food. As I told you, it is a modern food that is worsening the COVID epidemic. And what is a modern food? It is high intake of sugar, high intake of fruits and fruit juices, high intake of maida and corn flour. These three, and high intake of fried foods, which will cause more of free radical damage, injury and oxidant injury. So sugar and all sweets and all soft drinks should be completely stopped. Whether you have COVID or no COVID, stop them. Sugar is not necessary. Sugar is not our food. It is the number one enemy of mankind. Stop sugar. Number two, when I say sugar, honey, jaggery included. Stop that. Number two, and even artificial sweeteners, sir. Stop it. Number two are fruits and fruit juice. Many people raise questions, raise their eyebrows, and get irritated when we say fruits. But fruits are also sugar. Remember, there is absolutely no difference between table sugar and fruits in the sense that table sugar is sucrose chemically. Sucrose is glucose plus fructose. So 50% of table sugar is fructose, and fruits have fructose. They're only fructose. Fructose is in fact fruit sugar. So consumption of fructose is what excessive consumption of fructose which is driving this metabolic syndrome and related problems. So don't take fruits, no fruit juices. Third, as I said, maida, corn flour, that is bread, biscuits, noodles, pizza, pasta, cakes, pastries, and even soups with the corn flour. You should have clear soup. No corn flour, no maida, no fried food. And moderate the consumption of cereals like rice and wheat. Eat less. Don't eat too much of rice, too much of wheat. And eat only 3 times a day. Don't eat every 2 hours, every hour. As and when you feel like eating, you keep on eating. Don't do that. Have a breakfast, have a lunch, and evening some one cup of nuts. I'll explain later. And evening 8 o'clock, finish your supper. Don't eat very late and have 8 hours of sleep every night. And every day you walk for 30 to 40 minutes, brisk walking. That's what you need to do. Now, then you'll ask me what to eat, sir. You said nothing to eat. No, everything else to eat. The natural, traditional, good old food of mankind has always been vegetables, eggs, tree nuts. Tree nuts are almonds, pista, cashew, and walnut, and no dry fruits, no dates and no raisins, no figs and apricots. They are fruits, very rich in sugar. So you have tree nuts, you have fish, you have chicken, you have mutton, you have all the red meat, whatever you want, and then you have eggs. Eggs are extremely good food for corona because with the yolk, the egg yolk, the cholesterol and the lecithin and choline and other phospholipids within the yolk, in fact, is a good immune booster more than any of these kashaya and all that nonsense that is being recommended. So all of you should follow this kind of a diet. So morning maybe you can have eggs and nuts with a black coffee or a black tea. Milk also preferably you should avoid. For lunch, you have fish and vegetable, chicken vegetable, mutton vegetable, and all those things with little rice or one chapati. Evening, you can have a cup of nuts and black coffee, black tea. 8:30, again have fish and chicken and such things with lot of vegetables. If you follow this kind of a diet, you can rest assured that your immune dysregulation will come to its tracks within a week. You don't have to lose weight. That's another important thing. If you somebody other day asked a question, no, your diet will take 2 to 3 years to show effects. No, the immune response will improve in plain 3 to 4 days. So practice that, and in anybody having COVID must be asked to follow this diet. It will help everybody. Once you do it, you know how good it is. So therefore, this is all I have to say about COVID. Now, one request: you are an organization and you are planning to do something for COVID. Uh, I have only couple of suggestions. He spoke about the vaccination camp. Personally, I feel we should not hold these kind of camps because these camps themselves are leading to overcrowding. And now that there is lack of vaccine supply, that will create more problems. People waiting there for hours together, and all these are elderly and vulnerable. So somehow, personally, I am not in favor of a vaccination camp. And vaccination is not going to prevent the second wave or even the third wave. This is a huge country of 137 crore people. To vaccinate everybody above 45 years, it will take not less than 3 to 4 years. And the government has jumped up and now included 18 year and above also. So this is not going to be an easy affair. And by the time vaccine reaches even the vulnerable at the speed it is going, the second wave, third wave, everything will be over and people would have got natural immunity by getting the infection. So therefore, that should not. I'm not saying don't take the vaccine, but as an organization, vaccination shouldn't be your priority. So immediate priority should be to provide number one is to spread the message which I have given to you now about the food and the lifestyle. Number two, about impressing upon people to stay at home. They should not run around. getting tests and other things done. Number three, while staying at home, they should monitor their oxygen with a pulse oximeter. Most important. So the pulse oximeters can be provided. Say there is an apartment building, maybe 4 or 5 people can have. If everybody can buy, it's okay. It's about 2,000 rupees. But maybe 4 or 5 with the security, whatever it is, you can plan it out. Or at a community level, you can make committees to take care of one area where these pulse oximeters can be shared between people who are having the symptoms. Third, most important is helping them find hospitals if the moment oxygen level goes down. Fourth, don't run around and waste money on medicines. Please convince everybody these medicines do not work. Steroids and anticoagulants are not very expensive at all. But arranging oxygen, the government should have done it. You all can write to the government and say that every state has adequate oxygen. My state, Karnataka, my place, Mangalore, has adequate oxygen. Problem is in reaching it to the hospital. So we will need cryo tanks, cryo cans and all that. So Arvind is a biochemist, he knows about cryo cans. So somehow if you can source these cryo cans or make arrangements for large cryo cans to be purchased, that can be given to hospitals in your locality. They can be helped to set up oxygenation facilities. Now home oxygen concentrator, just one word about it, it will not give more than 5 liters per minute. So for early stage it's okay, but simply depending only on home oxygen concentrator, even if the oxygen level is dipping, he should not depend on that. He or she should immediately come to the hospital. Initial stage it is okay. And fifth most important thing is helping our people with corona, because they are outcasted, they're rendered untouchable. Nobody is there to help them. So anybody who has already had corona in the first wave or now during the second wave, and those of you who have completely recovered, be assured you are fully immune. You are not going to get the second infection or reinfection or anything. You are fully immune. So therefore, you should be at the forefront of helping these patients and their families, because you're not going to get affected again. So you should take it upon yourself to help these fellows. Once you are all right, once your health is back normal, try to help everybody. And the last point is helping cremation or burial of the dead. Unfortunately, that is a big issue now. A lot of people do not want to touch them. A lot of people do not want to come forward to bury the dead. I'm sorry to say this, but that is another area where we all can join our hands and help our people. So I stop here. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to
answer. Thank you, doctor, for your very impressive, knowledgeable and experienced, authentic presentation. We are really happy that you have attended this program and you had this talk to all of us. We treasure all your comments, and I'm sure your presentation was an eye-opener for all of us. And once again, on behalf of Indian Senior Chamber, we thank you, Dr. Srinivas, for your wonderful, authentic and elegant presentation on COVID measures. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, friends, now if anybody would like to have any queries, please raise your hand, identify yourself, and then our admin will unmute you, and you can have a clear-cut answer from the doctors. Yes, anybody want to have any queries or anything?
Yes, can I ask a question? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Advocate Sugadan, continue.
Yes.
Please make it brief.
Yes. Dr. Srinivas, it was a highly informative talk, but my doubt is regarding vaccination. Because regarding the second dose, some say that it should be, initially we were told that we should take the second vaccination within 4 weeks, on the 4th week. Now it is stated that it should be in 6 to 8 weeks. Time has extended. So what will be the effect of those who have taken earlier, especially health workers and doctors, all taken before that 4th week in the initial stage? Now, some of us have taken in the 7th week, now in the present stage, after we were informed of that we should prolong it. So
Doctor
what will be?
Doctor will answer your question, sir.
Yes. Regarding vaccination.
raised a very interesting question. See, this for healthcare workers, the initial recommendation was 4 weeks because see, the problem with the vaccines against corona is we have been at a very fast pace. We have given experimental use, emergency use authorization for all the vaccines. And in fact, in India, for Covaxin, it was given on experimental mode, not even emergency. So therefore, everybody was made an experimental subject for the vaccine. Anyway, because of all these issues, these confusions happen. But now it is very clear with all the data that is available. Later, the second dose, better is the immunogenicity. So WHO recommends of the two vaccines here is the Covishield, which WHO has already released information on. So WHO says it is 8 to 12 weeks, not even 6 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. So the point is, the first dose will give you protection to about 50-55%. Second dose, what you're taking is a booster. The later the date of the booster, better is the immune response. That's what they're saying. But even with the early dose of the fourth week, what the healthcare workers took, it will not, in the sense, lead to a lot of what is that? Much lesser immunity in that group compared to the second group who are taking it later. So that is very unlikely. Maybe some 5%, 10% difference may be there in immunogenicity. We need not worry about it. But as I said, vaccination is not going to protect you against infection. If at all, it is going to protect you against the severe complications. So therefore, I would say three things about the vaccine. Number one, those of you who are already infected and you are infected in the sense not just RT-PCR positive, if you had the symptoms, all the typical symptoms, and you recovered very well, you don't have to take vaccine. It is not going to add anything to your immunity. You will have robust lifelong immunity after this viral infection. It is now a proven fact. Nobody need to worry. As I said, no reinfection. So you don't have to take the vaccine. The companies would say you can take the vaccine. Can take, should take are different. So therefore, they may say for their own reason. So anybody who is already infected, don't take the vaccine. Number two, those who have already taken the first dose, try to get the second dose on time. If that is not possible, nothing to worry. As and when you get it, you don't have to go and stand in a queue and worry about it. If you get it, you take it. And those who have not taken the vaccine so far, it is your call to take, because as I've told you how good it is and what are the side effects and all that. The safety also is not proven. If you want to take, it is your choice. You can please go ahead and take. But definitely you can wait and wait for your turn, so that you don't go into a crowded space and expose yourself to other issues. So therefore, don't panic about vaccination in any scenario. If you get it, you get it. Otherwise, no problem. Maintain the physical distance and follow. The most important vaccine, I would say, is not the vaccine that you take into your muscles. It is a food that I have suggested. You follow this food. The problem with corona is the complications, and complications are due to hyper immune response, which you can all prevent by changing your food and lifestyle. Otherwise, if those things are taken care of, your body will take care of the virus.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Prashant Pai, Prashant Pai, I am seeing your raising hand, please. Are you there, Prashant Pai, sir? Otherwise, Dadaji, are you there?
Hello, doctor, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
So
Yeah,
my question is, can the pregnant ladies take this vaccine, and whether there are any suggestions for the pregnant women for not getting the COVID infection? And if at all they get an infection, what is the precaution we have to take?
Yeah, so you have asked a very wonderful question, I must say. Now, there is some recent confusion here. Just this morning, we were discussing about it, about vaccinating the pregnant women. World over, these vaccines are not live attenuated vaccines. So only live vaccines are not recommended for pregnant women. They can take any other vaccine. So from that point of view, all pregnant women could have taken this vaccine. But the government has very recently, I think about a couple of days ago, has issued a notification that pregnant and lactating women should not be given the vaccine. It may have other considerations. We do not know because there are a lot of pregnant women. We are showing shortage of vaccine. So they are creating new indications not to give the vaccine. So it looks like that. So therefore, when the government itself has passed such an order, I don't think anybody will now give vaccine to pregnant women. That is one part of it. So in the West and elsewhere, pregnant women are being vaccinated. So technically they can be given, but here this is the decision taken by the government 2-3 days ago. That's about the vaccine. Number two, pregnancy by itself, in fact, is not a risk factor for severe COVID. Let me make it very clear. Because in pregnancy, the immune system is very alert and very measured. Because the immune system has to tolerate this is called immune tolerance, the baby. If the immune system is very aggressive, it will create problems for the baby that is growing inside. That's a foreign body. See, our human body and physiology is so very interesting. This is what I learned from my professor. I think Arvind knows Professor Salgar in KMC. He used to tell us this. See, so in pregnancy, the immune system is very alert and very measured. So on account of that, there is no hyper-inflammatory response in pregnancy. So in general, pregnant women do fairly well with this disease. But as I said, if the pregnant women, now what is happening in our country is every pregnant lady is asked to drink liters and liters of milk and eat kilos and kilos of sweets and fruits. And if they are gaining a lot of weight, and if their baby's weight is also much higher, that means and if the pregnant woman has diabetes, what we call a gestational diabetes, or she has gestational hypertension, all indicating that their metabolism has gone wrong, they are definitely at risk of developing severe COVID. So therefore, even for pregnant women, if they are taking a lot of fruits and milk and all that, you ask them to please stop it. There is no need for drinking milk at all in pregnancy. Calcium can be obtained from vegetables and nuts and fish. Milk doesn't offer much calcium. So stop the milk and stop sweets and fruits. And don't try to gain a lot of weight. Whatever natural weight gain happens, it happens. But don't put on weight by eating too much and eating all these so-called modern food. So if they take care of their health in general like this, pregnant women need not worry at all about COVID.
Thank you, Doctor. As we have to move on to the second part of
No. There is nothing like that. 1 minute, Varghese ji. Let us continue with this for some time. Because that's the very, very pertinent and very important queries are coming. Let us clarify it, because when the doctor is there, it is better to listen from his sonology. There are some chat queries coming from the chat box. You can just read them for the benefit of the participant. The Dadaji, if you are there, you can just have the query directly. Good morning, Dada.
We used to see a lot of messages from WhatsApp, Facebook, and so on. Today, we got very authentic, correct information you have given, sir. It's a wonderful message. I had a lot of myths. The people used to talk: is this virus is engineered? Is this pharmaceutical mafia internationally? Is this political game to capture the power economy, or is it a hidden agenda to reduce the population? These are all the myths. Just hearing from the people. What I understood is, I remember the Sholay dialogue, Jo dar gaya samjho mar gaya, himmat hai marda marde khuda. So we should be more courageous, give a command to our subconscious to conquer this virus, that is a Vishakanta. So we should become Corona Kanta now, people. So we have to live positively.
Okay, you have any queries?
Beautiful message, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dada. Hira, do you have a query there? Hira Chand. Anyone else?
Can the dead body spread the virus?
What is that?
Sir,
Dead body.
this is Hira Chand.
No,
This is Hira Chand. I have a query.
1 minute.
Yeah.
You can shoot your query. Doctor will reply for both.
Yeah, sir, I have a query. My mom and my brother have taken vaccination. Now, before third week,
they are attacked with the coronavirus, and mom has been admitted due to lack of oxygen. So, does it happen quite often? Those who have taken vaccine will be get infected.
Okay, doctor will reply. Okay,
Just
thank you.
one clarification, have they taken 2 doses or 1 dose?
First dose, sir. Only first dose they have taken. The third week. This is third week running, and they are infected with the coronavirus.
Yeah.
My brother and mom
Yeah, okay. The first one.
positive.
Yeah, got it. First question is about the corona spreading from the dead. Absolutely no. I told you in the beginning that it is talking to each other and of course sneezing, coughing and singing. But most often it is by talking to each other. So a person who is no more with us is not breathing, is not talking, is not singing or is not coughing. So the chance of spread from the dead to others is nearly zero. Only way it can happen is in very early, soon after death. If somebody has touched the nose and the mouth and the secretions there, which may be having the virus, if that hand, with the same hand, if it touches his nose, then it may spread. But such chances are very, very remote because most of the deaths are happening in the hospital and the people there know how to do it. Even if the deaths are happening at home, the only care you need to take it, if you have touched the face and the other part, face and the nose particularly, don't touch your nose or mouth directly after that. Go and wash your hands with soap and water. That's all. Otherwise, the dead bodies do not spread the infection. In fact, if you ask me, all this wearing PPE kit and all that while burying the dead or burying the dead with the PPE kit, all that is not necessary at all. In fact, it will create more harm in decomposition of the body. Anyway, that's a separate issue. Now, coming to the vaccination, see, that's what I told you. These companies claim that they will protect to some extent from getting severe disease. There is no guarantee that it will protect 100%. We are now seeing some doctors who have had both doses of the vaccine in January and February also getting admitted with severe COVID. So therefore, these are all new vaccines with not concluded studies. So we really do not know. So anyway, now that they have the problem, very unfortunate to hear that she is admitted with hypoxia. But please see that she is also given the same diet, eggs and meat and all that. It will definitely help her to recover. It will certainly help. Whether the doctors agree or not, you tell them, see, this is what we have read. What you can do is you can type metabolic syndrome plus COVID on Google. You will get wonderful research papers and reviews published on by in reputed journals. You can take a printout and give it to your doctors there to read if they don't agree with this kind of a diet, but I'm sure they will agree. So you please do it for your mom. So it is only after both doses and about a month after the second dose that there may be some protection. I'm using the words very carefully because it is not yet assured. So therefore, I repeat, more than the vaccine, it is keeping our own immune system very hale and hearty by the diet and exercise that I have suggested.
Thank you, doctor. Ashok Kumar, I see your hand raised. Are you there?
Yes. Yes, sir. I'm here, sir. Am I audible,
Yeah.
sir?
Yes, yes,
Good morning.
yes.
Good morning, doctor. Sir, I have
Yeah.
a query. Once a person gets infected and he gets the treatment, and after discharging from the hospital, coming back home, how many days should the person be isolated, or should the person wear the mask inside the house along with the others?
Yeah, no, there are 2-3 things about. Number one, I told you, in most patients, the virus transmission stops by 6 or 7 days because the transmission happens when the virus is there in the nose and the throat, and the immune system clears it within a week. So after 6-7 days, the risk of transmission is very, very, very less. Maximum transmission happens in the first 48 hours, then it comes down. Now, somebody who had a severe illness may be shedding some of the virus from the lungs. So in them also, maximum they say is about 12 to 13 days from the onset of the illness. So if that duration 2 weeks is over for somebody already admitted, even he is not going to spread the disease to the family member. Number three, generally when somebody had a disease severe enough to get admitted, by that time all his family members would have already got infected. So they would already have had mild symptoms. So there is really no point in staying away from the own family members if they have already got infected. So this is another thing. Yesterday somebody asked me this question: if all the 5 in the family have symptoms, do they have to stay in 5 rooms? No. If all the 5 are equally affected and all of them have COVID symptoms, then you can all be together as always, but don't go out and spread it to others. So I hope I have answered better.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Matai,
Yeah.
keep the question short.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you. The session is highly excellent and very useful. Thank you, Dr. Srinivas. And my question is, for the diabetic persons, can they take food at all? Sorry, fruits at all? That's my first question. Second question. Then today there was a news in the newspaper that the DRDO developed medicine for the COVID, deoxy and the D-glucose. What do you say about it, doctor? Thank you.
Yeah. So Aravind and our common guru, Dr. Narendra Naik, he called me just now before this session started about this 2DG glucose. I will tell you a little later. The first question was about fruits and diabetes. Yes, definitely don't use any fruits if you are a diabetic, because you might have seen some videos that fruits don't increase glucose. No, fruits don't increase glucose because they don't have glucose, they have fructose. So the blood glucose will not go up. But the fructose in the fruit worsens your inflammatory response, worsens your insulin resistance, worsens your obesity, which in turn will worsen the diabetes. So it's an indirect bad effect on diabetes. So therefore, even if you have diabetes or you don't have diabetes, don't eat fruits. That is number one. Only fruit you can eat is probably avocado or what we call as butter fruit. It is now season, it's available. You can try that because it's essentially fatty acid. So you can use that, but no other fruit. Now coming to your question about 2-deoxyglucose. See, what is happening is, in fact, my article has appeared in News Minute the day before yesterday about how treatment protocols in India are very confused and bad and creating all kinds of problems. There I have mentioned that we are trying to, the government and doctors and all of these agencies are trying to show to the people that something great is being done by India and by the doctors and by the government and by DRDO. Unfortunately, we are giving wrong messages to our people. See, this 2-deoxyglucose is not a new drug. It is not a drug at all. It is just an analog of glucose. It is another form of glucose. So what it does is it blocks the way glucose is used by the human cells. That's all. I told you when I spoke about glucose and fructose, that is overconsumption of glucose and overconsumption of fructose, that is deranging our metabolism. So I said you avoid eating a lot of glucose. Maida is glucose, rice wheat is glucose. So you should cut down that. When you cut down that, automatically glucose metabolism will be at a much slower pace or lower space. Now, instead of saying that, you are trying to give them 2-deoxyglucose. How is it going to help? It's not going to help much. You see, instead of giving people the right messages, we are coming out with all this. So 2-deoxyglucose is now used. For those of you who have heard of PET scan, which is done in cancers. There also the same 2-deoxyglucose tagged with the radioisotope, that's called as fluorodeoxyglucose, FDG, is used because cancer cells take up glucose, they take up FDG, and they are wherever there is cancer, that is picked up by the PET scanner. So 2-deoxyglucose is already in use for some of the cases of cancer, but there again it has very, very limited role to play. Have you heard of 2-deoxyglucose in any chemotherapy regimen? No, because it is a very, very limited role. So in COVID also, I do personally feel it will have no role or very minimal role, if at all. Instead of 2-deoxyglucose, stop eating glucose or reduce eating your regular glucose. See, what 2-deoxyglucose will do is the glucose that you eat will be blocked to some extent by 2-deoxyglucose. The better option, easier option is to cut down your glucose itself.
Thank you, sir. Let us allow two more queries. Santosh Kumar, are you there, sir?
Sir, thank you, and wonderful section. Just one doubt, that is once it has been affected and once the person has get the immunity, how long it is going to stay in them? That is the only one doubt I am having, sir.
If you are infected, Your
Yes, sir.
immunity is lifetime. Lifetime. You will never ever get SARS-CoV-2 again. Forget it. If you are really infected, if you have the symptoms, what I described, the loss of smell and all that, or it is proven by RT-PCR, you are not going to get infected at all again with this virus. It is lifetime.
Sir,
You are protected against all the mutants, all the variants, everything.
but sir, I'm sorry, like many of my patients and colleagues I have seen, even our CM Yediyurappa has, even last year he has been infected once, this time he has infected twice, like that. That is the one thing where we want to know it, sir.
Yeah, see, this issue was raised by so many media persons to me. Then my answer was very simple. I'll tell you now here also. See, infection means you should have suffered the infection. RT-PCR is not infection. Okay. Now, why I'm saying that this again, that's another very interesting thing all of us should understand. This is the first time ever in human history that we have poked everybody's nose and throat trying to find the RNA in the throat and nose. RNA in nose and throat doesn't mean that the virus has entered your cells and activated immune response. All right. So if that's why I'm saying, if you have already had symptoms of COVID, if you have suffered the disease, your immune system is activated and you are not going to get it again. If it was only RT-PCR positive or false positive or whatever it was, then you are not infected. The test was positive. It was on paper that you had infection. Your body didn't have the infection. Then you will have real infection later. Now, there is a recent study from UK where some 12,500 nursing staff and healthcare workers were followed up. Out of that, 1,600 had the infection. Out of the 1,600, only 3 had reinfection in terms of getting RT-PCR positivity. None of them had symptoms. So therefore, RT-PCR positive doesn't mean that there is infection either in the first instance or the second instance. Somebody who has had a frank infection will not get another infection with the symptoms. That is for sure.
Thank you, doctor. Chetan,
has
last.
Chetan.
During the lactation period, if the mother get infected, she can continue the breastfeeding to the baby.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. There is no reason why any mother should stop breastfeeding unless the mother has a very serious illness where she cannot breastfeed or infection in the breast which makes it impossible for us to feed. But otherwise, there is hardly anything which stops the mother from. Then, of course, a very, very rare disease. No, we will not discuss about it. But with regard to COVID, she should not stop breastfeeding. She should continue to breastfeed the baby. And babies are very safe from COVID. There is no report about newborn babies or other babies getting affected by COVID or its complications. So they're all very safe. So breastfeeding must continue, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Oh.